Hello, everybody. My name is Michael Groves, BH23185, coming to you today with an interview with Derek Arnold, who has been in lots and lots of things in the Star Wars universe and beyond that. So we're looking forward to talking to Derek today. This is all as part of Project 1138. Where we're celebrating 50 years of Lucasfilm, and we are partnered with the 501st Legion, that's us, and we're raising money for FIRST, which is the world's leading youth-serving nonprofit advancing STEM education. So Derek, tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got to be on set and working as a creature effects puppeteer and actor in Star Wars.
Essentially, I just blackmailed my way to the top. I made myself really nice. I let people drop their barriers. I learned the worst things about them, and I blackmailed them, and I stabbed them in the back, and just made my way to the top. Pretty much, no. That'd be great. How did I get into puppeteering? I was in a show in the West End. I trained as an actor originally because puppetry was never even really on my radar. I wanted to be an actor, and I fell into a job. I was always physical. I've been in karate since I was 5. I did gymnastics as a child, so throwing myself and moving myself around and sort of the coordination of my body was relatively easy for me. And I auditioned for a show here in London called Warhorse, which was a stage show that had life-size horse puppets in it, and it sort of blew up, and it went worldwide. It went to every country pretty much in the world, and I fell into that in the West End here in London for about 4 or 5 years. And it was from that job that sort of opened up the floodgates and doors for me, and I ended up doing a job with a gentleman. I say gentleman, I use the term very loosely, a guy named Brian Herring. And if you've ever met Brian Herring, I don't think gentleman is a word that you would use. So he's a good friend of mine. He's a good friend of mine. And I met Brian on a job. And he called me up and offered me a job on The Force Awakens. And then it sort of has snowballed through there. So that was 2013 that I started prepping on that. And then to this day, sort of still in there somehow. I don't know. They haven't caught on yet. They haven't fired me. I don't know why.
I understand the feeling. A lot of times at my work, I keep thinking if somebody came up and tapped me on the shoulder and said, "We made a terrible mistake," you probably should say, "Oh, sorry, I'll go." But I appreciate you sharing that, Derek.
Yeah.
What did you see was the most difference between working in the West End live on stage and going into the studio for filming a major production like a Star Wars film?
Oh, that's a good question. I haven't properly said hi to Bastian. I've said briefly. Bastian, sorry, I'm so sorry. I will answer your question. Bastian, how you doing, mate? I met Bastian in Germany, and I've been following him on social media ever since because of his amazing costumes. And I just keep seeing Pal look at me, so it's a bit weird.
Pal only scowls, and Bastian, that is fantastic. Do you mind holding that up to the camera a little bit so we can see it better?
Yeah, sure.
That's an amazing replica, and it looks even better on him. He looks better in it than I did. That's for sure.
No.
That's fantastic, mate. That really is. And I love the 2 tubes.
Oh yeah, 2 tubes. Yeah. 2 tubes is up there. To answer your question, the difference between theater and film, time is the big thing. And in theater, you can rehearse. You spend 6-7 weeks rehearsing something, and then you have a few weeks of rehearsals before the press come, and then as you're doing that, it sort of changes. But you can't stop the show once it starts, unless something horrible goes wrong, which the show must go on. So you sort of just plow through it, pun intended, and you just sort of get on with it. But in movies, it's like time is everything. It's like you get it right the first time. There's no mistakes. You sort of there's a lot of pressure and a lot of money, and that's it. There's 300 people standing behind the camera waiting for you, and if you get it wrong, it's a bad. I've told this story once, I think, or twice before. On episode 8, we were doing something on second unit, and I was controlling a mouse droid, and I hate them. I think they're the worst things in this world. They deserve to just be banished away from humanity for the rest of the world for eternity. And I was controlling a mouse droid on second unit, and we did something like 25 takes because of me, because I kept screwing it up. And you could just sort of like, there was 150 extras on set. There's about 200 crew. And by the end of it, everyone knew my name for the wrong reason. It was horrible. It was just agonizing. And that's the thing, is because you can't mess up. You get it right the first time. I think that's the biggest thing for me is time.
Okay, appreciate that. Well, like I said before, my wife and I saw you in Warhorse on stage in fall 2013, and that was phenomenal. And what was the magic about that, I think, and kind of speaks to the puppetry, is that maybe the first 10 minutes I noticed you guys with the horse, right?
Yeah.
But then you disappeared, and we were just watching the horse. And pretty magical. And to see that physicality that you mentioned, you can see that carry over into something like Star Wars, where the creatures are such an important, integral part of the universe.
Yeah, definitely. And I think when you're working with creature heads, like, with the POW stuff, and anytime you have an animatronic head, the ethos in Warhorse, because the full-grown horse puppet takes 3 puppeteers. It takes 3 people to work simultaneously together to create the movement and the sounds and everything all at once. And right from the beginning, the building blocks that they teach you are the first, like the big rules are, if you move something, how does that affect the image? So if you're going to move something, or if you're going to do something, it has to be for a reason, because you're going to affect the image that you're overall trying to create. And then another rule is, instead of thinking of yourself, think of what you can do to complement your partner, complement the people you're working with. So if that means not moving or not doing anything and letting them have a moment to shine, then they're going to be doing the same for you. So you're always going to be working to help the other person. You're always going to be willing to make the other person look good. And if you're doing that, then the image and the overall sort of teamwork that you're creating is a cohesiveness, and it really works. It takes, the ego out. It no longer becomes about you or what you're doing. And anytime you do animatronic work or CFX work, there's so many people that are involved to get you to where you are on set, and you're the last cog in the machine. You're the last piece. So if you're not helping everybody who's worked to get you there and continuing to work when you're on set, then it sort of falls apart. You have to really, really sort of be sensitive to everybody around you and the people that are sort of supporting you. Otherwise, it's lost.
Totally understand. Now, the other thing about POW is you guys were filming in the Seychelles, right? I imagine that was a bit balmy in the costume.
Here's some movie magic. The first 6 weeks of filming was in North London on an airbase. So they brought in like loads of trees from Spain. It was an old airstrip, a military airstrip that they completely made a man-made lake and everything. It was about 6 weeks of filming.
Wow.
Yeah, and they did 10 days in the Maldives.
Okay.
I didn't go though. I didn't go to the Maldives. It was too expensive. You said, because with me, it's like, there's me in the costume. Then there's, there was a fabricator called Morna McPherson. She was the person that built like the sort of bodysuit that I have to wear underneath the costume. Mm-hmm. There's Phil Woodfine, who was the puppeteer behind the camera controlling the face. There was a gentleman named Sasha Choate, who was the mechie that if anything broke, he had to fix it. And there was a costume person with me all the time, so that, you know, the minute we came on the set, because it took 2 to 3 people just to put the head on, and then they had to adjust the costume and tuck everything in. And then there would be a coordinator who was speaking in my ear. So just for one POW, it took like 6 people. They were just like going, oh my God, we have to fly 7 people out just for one character. And the Maldives was really like, everybody were on boats. Like there's just no hotels. But I think they only did like 9 days or 10 days in the Maldives. So, but the majority of the shoot was in North London on an airbase.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's pretty neat backstory that I was not aware of. And you again, I think that feeds into how many people are behind the scenes working to make the magic happen, that I think if it's done right, we get so engrossed in the story that we're not distracted by the effect, but the effect adds to the story.
Yeah.
And you've done that wonderfully in each role that you've done.
Yeah, definitely. With each character you've done, there's loads. There's the same amount of people. There's always a costume person. There's always a fabricator. There's always a mechie. There's always a puppeteer. It has to be, otherwise you're sort of stuck there alone because you can't see or hear anything. And you need those outside eyes and those outside influences to sort of direct you and dictate and help you orientate your world, or else you're just literally walking around blind.
What are your inspirations when you're assigned a role and you're trying to create this? I can see on Warhorse you can look at a real horse, but you know, these other creatures, you've got to find something else.
Oh, the money. Just think about the money. That's the best inspiration. Just get through today. Get the paycheck. Yeah, it's an interesting sort of step. So a lot of times with the different creatures. So there's a creature I played on episode 7 called Vober Dand, and he was sort of this air controller background guy. He's this sort of, we called him Beaver Face on set, and he had this hair. But the way they built that head was, the face was actually, it sits on top of my head looking at the air, looking at the sky. So in order for me to, I got to drop my head down and put my chin to my chest in order to create this sort of hunched over look. So when you have things like that, sometimes those things dictate your movements and can sort of help you figure out a walking pattern or a cycle. Sometimes you have fat suits on. The fabricators may build the creature to look really fat. And if you're really fat, you're literally engrossed in about 7 inches of foam from head to toe, and that's going to dictate how you walk and stuff like that. So you can use those physical aspects as to sort of dictate how this creature would move or wouldn't move. So you can use inspirations like that and try and break up really what you want to do. The first step is just not to make it look like a human wearing a mask. That's the sort of first thing, is like just picking out little idiosyncrasies, little ticks that can sort of take away who you are as a human. So you're working twice as hard to not be natural like that, if that makes sense.
No, I appreciate that. Bastian, do you have any questions?
Yeah, come on, Bastian.
Yeah, sure. I want to ask you, Derek, what was your favorite character you ever played?
Oh, husband. My favorite character is play husband to my wife. Yeah, she'll love that one. Favorite, that's like picking your favorite child, which I definitely have because I only have one. They all sort of mean something. The first creature I ever did was called the Lugabeast, and that was on episode 7, and I did that with Tom Wilton, who I despise, who is just a horrible person in general. It's like my best friend. So that sort of holds a sort of lovely memory because it was the first thing we ever did on a Star Wars movie. Tau was the sort of thing that put me on the map. Vober Dand, the one I was just talking about, has been in episode 7, episode 8, and episode 9. So he was sort of the one through character. Me and Tom were in the Thala Siren that was milked by Mark Hamill. So it's not every day you get to say you were milked by Mark Hamill. That's pretty fun. Oh my God, there's been like 20. Six Eyes in Solo, that's playing Sabak next to Han Solo with the six eyes. That was just cool because it was like one of the most advanced heads they've ever built. So they're all sort of my favorite. You know what? POW is by far the hardest.
The hardest, okay.
By far the hardest, yeah, mentally and physically. Just because the silicon was so thick you couldn't breathe. So they had to have an air hose that was pumping air into the head constantly, or else I would pass out after like 30 seconds or a minute. And I couldn't see or hear anything. And I was in the head a lot on set. So between takes, when they're relighting and you have 40 minutes to relax, I couldn't relax because I'm sort of stuck inside this head. So you sort of just sit quietly to yourself, alone all the time. So mentally and physically, POW was the hardest because they were also making us run through the explosions on the beaches and stuff like that. And there were times where like the stunt guys were like, we got mortars going off. So if you run within 3 feet of that mortar, you're gonna die. So don't do that. You're like, okay. I can't see. So Phil in my ear, Phil Woodfine, the puppeteer going left, right, left, right, straight, stop running. So it's like,
so it's a team.
Oh my goodness, yeah, especially with POW, yeah. So I think by far the hardest was POW, and they're all sort of my favorite, in a sort of weird way.
So that's one of the interesting things, and Bastian, I think, can comment to this, especially with trooping POW. The difference between, trooping and being at a convention or at a fundraising event where, you're there for 3 hours. I do Empire Strikes Back, Boba Fett. And again, my wife's a saint, and she's got it down to getting me dressed in about 20 minutes. And my kids are saints for being patient. But you have to make compromises on the costume, if you would. I'd love to hear that from you too, Bastian, and hear your thoughts, Derek, for keeping it on you so that you can't have it move between takes or have somebody else help you, because at best you've got one person, one friend to help you out with it. So Bastian, do you have anybody supporting you when you're trooping?
My girlfriend is helping me a lot of time.
Yeah, I've witnessed him because when I was in Germany doing a convention and Bastian came as POW, and you blitzed out like so many hours in that thing. Because this is the thing I was interested in, because it really does move. Your POW costume really moves really well. It has a lot of movement in the neck, in the head area, which is really hard to get in a lot of cosplay. Like a lot of that, and the costume it's not really rigid as well. It is really organic. It's a really organic piece from head to toe, your costume. So how did you piece together all of those things?
Oh, do you mean the mask or everything? Is
all of it, because the mask is amazing. Hold on, is that how much you get to see?
I don't see a lot of. It's only so small through the eyes.
Yeah.
I can show you.
Wow. And what's the mouth? Is that just so you can sort of breathe a little bit in the mouth?
There is a little opening, and that's the only part I can breathe through.
You should be a creature performer on Star Wars, man. You'd fit right in.
Oh, my biggest dream.
That's
Absolutely
great. So did you make the vest and all of that as well, and the headpiece and stuff like that?
No. There are some people that helped me to build this costume. I did a lot of research because there are not many pictures or videos from POW.
No.
And I did 1 year of research, and then I put all together and was looking for some people. They helped me. There's one guy from UK, Chris Stevens. He built the mask and the gloves. There are full latex gloves I'm wearing. I can't really move my fingers inside of it.
Those gloves, we had foam latex gloves, and they were done after like 2 days. They'd be tearing apart. They were making so many of those things. They were horrible.
Yeah. And,
so how long, all in all, from start to finish, did it take you to build that?
Yes. 1 year.
That's a lot
1
of
year.
time.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was my dream. I see this character and I wanted to do it. Yeah, so near to the movie I can. But the hardest thing was to find for the jacket you wear behind under the mask, under the vest.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the beige, yeah.
Yeah, the coat. I found a making of video, and
Oh
I
yeah.
see you without the mask
Yeah.
and
With the
without
black
the
face, like all of the black paint
Yeah,
painted
yeah.
across my face, yeah.
Yeah. And this video helped me a lot to create this.
Yeah. Okay, wow, yeah.
I was looking for everything, action
Yeah.
figures and video games where I power inside.
Those
I
action figures are to scale. So they digitally scale us inside a volume, inside a room. They come in and they 3D digitally scale you, and they shrink you down from 5'9" to down to, so that POW toy is literally me scaled down to 3.75 inches. It's my
That's
proportion
pretty
to
cool.
everything. Yeah, it's everything in the computer scaled down to that thing. So I was like, wow, that's what I would look like if I was 3.75 inches tall.
That's why they are so detailed.
Yeah.
Great.
Well, it's really outstanding, Bastian. And again, just like Derek has talked about how there's so many different people behind him bringing the character to life when we go to Troop, I think there's at least 25 different people that helped create the parts, even though I painted my Boba Fett except for the helmet,
Yeah.
and weathered it just to put those together. Mine took 7 years because I had 3 deployments in between to go overseas.
Oh my goodness.
Just dream and then get it. But first time I put it together was in London in 2016.
2016, that was the first time you put your Boba Fett together.
That's right, when I had all the pieces to put it together, and it was fantastic.
So would you say that's your favorite character out of all 9 movies is the Boba Fett? Oh.
It's a hard one.
How the tables have turned.
So I mean, the hardest one, and Bastian can talk about this too, is face characters are so hard to do. So I mean, if I had the face and the hair, Luke Skywalker is the Jedi Knight from Return of the Jedi as a kid born in 1972.
Yeah.
That is super iconic to me. Okay, and that was my top action figure as a little kid. That and Boba Fett, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I still think Boba Fett, and super excited about the new stuff of him coming out. But Rogue One, I would say Rogue One, right after Empire Strikes Back, blew me out of the water. Love that movie.
Yeah.
I went in with no expectations of it, and to get to talk to you has been fantastic.
I'm looking forward to see what they do with Andor.
Oh, cannot wait. Would do anything to get to be a spec on that.
Who knows?
I've done a spec on some Marvel stuff, and the one thing that struck me being on set the first time, and I wanted your thoughts on this, was, and I don't want to use the wrong word, make it sound bad, but it seems so fake because there's no special effects, there's no music, there's no anything. Everybody's waiting for the lighting to go right, and you're doing it 20, 30 times.
Yeah.
And so it just was interesting to me, in a small role, standing deep background with the firearm, to see how different it was. That until you see the camera, you're like, okay, we really are on set. But do you have any comments on that, or your thoughts of?
Yeah, it's sort of, it's a really hard one because I don't really I can't watch a Star Wars movie the same way I watch Marvel. I've never been in a Marvel film. So when I go and watch Marvel films or, other franchises, James Bond and stuff like that, you watch it and you go, I know nothing about it. So I can be a fan. But, I've been involved with the Fantastic Beasts franchise, Jurassic World and Star Wars and stuff like that. And you're just like, I know, I was sat left of the camera eating a tuna sandwich during that take, when actors are just crying and I'm just eating a tuna sandwich going, good job. It's just sort of, is sort of, it's a weird, it takes it away. And so the most exciting things to watch on a Star Wars movie for me are the Empire stuff, because creatures aren't involved in the Empire stuff. We're all involved in the rebel bases and stuff like that. There's, you know, very rarely do we get to step on to one of those sets. So those are the only times when I'm watching the movie, I'm like, oh yeah, I know nothing I know what's gonna happen, but I don't know how it's filmed or what this set looks like or what those costumes are gonna be like. Those are the only moments that I sort of get, or the space battles, stuff like that. But other times I'm just like, yeah. And then you lose perspective really fast because you shoot it 20 different ways. So people come away, you sort of, you know, some of my closest friends are like, is it gonna be good? And I'm like, I have no idea. I don't even know what's going on anymore. You lose perspective. They have code names, and you shoot something 20, 30 times. You're like, I don't know which version they're going to use. I have no idea.
Sure.
I don't even know if I'm going to be in the movie until I'm sat in the cinema watching it. Like,
I know that's how it was. I was sitting with my dad, and thank goodness it was IMAX so he could see me. It was far from home. And he goes, there you are, because I didn't know, you know, you don't know where, you're definitely not looking at the camera. You're just trying to do your bit.
And sometimes, you know, they have like 2 or 3 cameras on different angles filming things, and you never know which camera they're going to use. So you're thinking, oh, there's a camera over there. And in the cinema, you're going, or, you know, movie theater, you're going, oh, where was that camera? How was that being filmed? Because you don't really know. You don't get to see every single take.
So who was your favorite character as a kid from the Star Wars franchise?
Oh, so I watched, obviously when I was a kid growing up, my dad showed me, and I would watch them on TV, but it was when Phantom Menace was released. I was thinking, when was Phantom Menace released? 90?
Is that 90s?
Mid 90s, late 90s? I was a teenager. And I remember vividly they remastered the old ones, because you couldn't watch them in the cinema. You always had to rent them or watch them on the TV. So I got to see the original Star Wars for the first time remastered in the cinema, and then Phantom Menace came out, and then that's sort of the Phantom Menace sort of series was when I sort of really became aware of Star Wars. And I was such a stereotypical kid. I fell into like the Darth Mauls. You know, I was like, when I was like, oh my God, this guy's amazing. Look at him. And because of being in karate and watching
Great part. There you go.
Exactly, doing, you know, no-handed cartwheels with his bow staff, with his double-edged lightsaber, flipping around, you know, fighting 2 Jedi Masters. I was like, and the soundtrack is probably hands down one of the best fight soundtracks in any of those scenes. And the whole point where Obi-Wan, you know, Ewan's running through and he has to stop at the late, like that scene, that whole fight scene, I thought was so well done. So yeah, I guess as a kid growing up, Darth Maul sort of really stuck out to me within those series. But I mean, if I was to pick a character from the old, like for the original one, from the old ones, from the original, from the old ones, oh man, I don't know. I have no idea. Ewoks, just because I vividly remember them as a child. Going, these are weird dolls. What are weird dolls doing running around in the woods? Oh, I really liked the stormtroopers in when you started to get away from the classical stormtrooper look, when they started to really change it up, you know what I mean, when you had different stormtroopers. I think they did that quite successfully on Rogue One. Shore Troopers, I think they completely redesigned it.
That's what we're working on is a shore trooper. I think that's one of my favorite costumes.
Yeah, I know the stunt guys love them because they could run on them. Because anytime you see a stunt, well, you guys would know if you ever wore a stormtrooper outfit, you can't really sit down. You can't. So the shore troopers, they were like, we can do a squat, like we can walk around, we can jump. They were loving them because you could see the stunt guys on all the other ones just going, oh, I got a stormtrooper, this sucks. And they'd just be like leaning on tables trying to just rest because they couldn't sit down.
I remember the pictures from Canary Wharf from behind the scenes. where they had all the guys resting in between takes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Bastian, are you able to sit down at all as POW?
Yeah, I can do everything in my power. I can sit down, but I must be careful because of the backpack on the back side.
Horrible.
But,
Hated that thing.
I can do everything with it, but not drinking.
No, yeah. They don't really
My
let us
wife
do that
mastered the
either.
ability to thread a straw up through my boba. We always take bendy straws.
That's working
So I can get a bendy straw up there and rotate it in.
Yeah, trick of the trade.
Really, that's neat. Because in between takes, you can't take everything off, right? They've just got to be able to get air to you or water or something.
Yeah, you get air and water. Yeah, you're not really allowed to eat in the heads just because there's a whole health and safety issue if you're choking and stuff like that. Like,
Sure.
And you can't really move your mouth a lot, like sometimes, and depending on the head, because they're so tight, and all of the mechanics in there are moving around in bits like that. So sometimes 90% of the heads you can get a straw through, and the rest of them, yeah, you just get air and water. Just the life necessity, the basics.
Craft Services isn't going to make an astronaut lunch for you for the straw.
I wish. And that's the thing. There's days on set where, you get your lunch and you're eating it at 4 p.m. cold. You're like, oh, so you learn real fast. You go, just a salad. Get me a salad with couscous and some chicken. Because I know if I order the hot meal, it won't be hot. It'll be cold. So just get me a salad with couscous and maybe rice. Just carb me up and give me some veg. That's
nice.
pretty much it. And a Coca-Cola. Have that standing by because I'm going to need a little sugar.
Now, Derek, you mentioned your family. So what's your wife and child think of your work? Do they ask interesting questions when you're on the set? I remember, what was it? Paul Bettany mentioned how his kids were disappointed to find out that he was the Vision. It said, that's not a cool Avenger or something like that in the ad. I just thought that was funny because he's such a nice guy.
Yeah, no, my wife and my son both think I'm an absolute hero. They think I'm the best human ever, and that I'm a legend. No, my wife couldn't care. She's like, "Are you going to be home this weekend? That's all that matters because I'm not waking up. My son's 2, so yeah, he's just happy if I'm around. If he poops, if I change him, that's his life goal. He's just happy if I change a poop. My wife is happy if I'm home on the weekends because she's not really into them. She finds it exciting. She doesn't hate them. We watch them and stuff like that. I bring them she gets treated well because I bring her to the cast and crew screenings. So she gets to dress. We get to dress up. We get to go. JJ was really good. So JJ hired, I think on episode 7, Lucasfilm hired out the Science Museum in London.
Great place.
Yeah, and they kitted it out. And then the episode 9 wrap party, to this day, is by far the craziest wrap party I've ever been to in my life. It was a 4-floor building, literally just by the Tower of London. It was catered by Jamie Oliver, I think.
Okay.
Which was nuts. So they just made a restaurant on like the 4th floor that you could just go to early and eat Jamie Oliver food. The 3rd floor was a forest, like literally a forest. They had people walking around as bushes. They had on the dance floor, they had human disco globes hanging from the ceiling, and they were lowering food onto the dance floor. It was mental. And I think the 2nd floor, the 3rd floor was like a cantina bar, which they had like other creatures walking around like extras. And the basement was this weird rave room where they had like these robots dancing on podiums with lasers shooting out. Honestly, it was the craziest rap party I've ever been to in my life. And I think Kathleen Kennedy's husband was DJing at one point, Frank Marshall. And I think they got the famous DJ Yoda. He came in and did a set. It was crazy. It was bonkers. So she gets to come to those parties because they earn it. People who work in the film industry, their families earn it because Once you're working on a film, that's it. Your life's put on hold. You don't see your friends. You don't see your family. I leave at 4:30 in the morning. I get home at 9 p.m. My wife has to take care of our son day in and day out with, she's a single mother essentially when I'm filming. And sometimes they might come to me at Friday at 5 p.m. and go, "You're filming tomorrow." I have to tell my wife that I'm filming on a Saturday, and she doesn't get mad. She's like, "Cool, it's your job. That's just what you do." So I think the families deserve a lot more credit than the actual actors because they sacrifice a lot more than we do. We're just tired because we're working all day, and they have to pick up the slack at home and do the groceries and clean the house and stuff like that. So yeah, she gets a lot. She deserves a lot more than she actually gets.
Well, Derek, that's a really lovely sentiment to share, and I think we all kind of feel that. But in particular, I think a lot of people don't realize the sacrifices that you guys make when you're having to go on set and film. What's been your most interesting location that you've had to travel to?
Ooh, interesting location. Abu Dhabi was a sort of a big one. That was a sort of an eye opener. That was the first location we ever went on. That's the first 2 weeks of episode 7 was Abu Dhabi. So that was big. But it was like 50 degrees Celsius. It was hot, which I think is like 180 billion degrees Fahrenheit. I don't know what the conversion is.
I used to live there too, so I know.
All right, okay. Like convert. Ireland, we shot in Ireland on episode 8, and that was lovely because the people in Dingle, which was the town that we were in Dingle, they were amazing, and they just sort of took care of us. They were just like, it was like coming home to family. It was so lovely. They would just keep the bars and the restaurants open for us, and anytime we just walked in, they would just sort of just sit down and we would just have really good chats. So they would bring out the band and they'd start just playing songs. And we went to Jordan on episode 9 for 3 weeks. That was sort of an eye opener. We went to Fuerteventura for Solo. Mm-hmm. That was really, really windy. So they each sort of had their own hurdles and sort of lovely moments at sort of different point in your time. So, the first location is like, it was our first movie and we're sort of green to everything. But by episode 9, we're a family. Everybody in CFX has been working together for 7-8 years. You all know each other. You're all brothers and sisters. You can just go in and have fun and party and sort of take care of each other. So the sort of journey along, I've just been lucky to been able to go to each of those locations and with everybody that I know.
Derek, is there ever any time on location that you can break away and see some of the sites? Like, did you get to see Wadi Rum or did you get to see Petra when you were in Jordan?
Well, we were filming in Wadi Rum. So we went to Wadi Rum every day, which is like amazing when you get like, I think the first week we were filming. So the first week we were in rehearsals. The second week we filmed, and it was like 2:30 in the morning pickups from our hotel. So we were picked up from the hotel 2:30 in the morning. You get to set around 4, have breakfast, and you're just watching the sunrise, over Wadi Rum, because all of our CFX base was literally in Wadi Rum, like an hour into it. And so you're just watching the sunrise over the desert. It's beautiful. So yeah, I mean, you don't really get to go. We did go to Petra because I sacrificed one of my Sundays, because when you're on location, you usually film Monday to Saturday.
Okay.
You're just there. You're there to film. So we sacrificed a Sunday rest, and I went, let's get up at 5 a.m. Let's go to Petra. How do you not go to Petra when you've come across the world? So you usually get a Sunday to relax, and so you can do what you want with that, but within reason, right? Because you can't break contract and go skydiving and put yourself at risk and other people.
Sure.
So yeah, in Abu Dhabi, we didn't really get to go anywhere because we were 4 hours into the desert. So there's not much, not a lot of places you can go when you're 4 hours in the desert. It's just sort of there. And the same with all the other ones. You sort of get there and you go, I just want to sleep. I just want to relax. I just want to relax and sort of go to the pool or maybe do something. But you try. I mean, Ireland was great. because it was like, just across the pond, really.
And my kids won't forgive me if I don't ask you about porgs.
I didn't touch any. I didn't get
You
to
didn't?
touch any. No, that wasn't me, unfortunately. No, that was oh, I'm gonna get this wrong. Brian Herring, Dave Chapman, who both did BB-8, and two other gentlemen, Damian Farrell, Damo, and Colin Purvis. Those four of them, they sort of smashed out Porgs. They're also the guys that were behind Rio, as well as Katie Cartwheel. She performed Rio physically, and then they did a puppet version. Those four guys, Brian, Dave, Damo, and Colin, have been in the industry forever, and they've done everything. They're sort of legends in their own right when it comes to puppetry. So those guys did the Porgs. We got to stand from afar and look at them because we're the new guys. We weren't allowed to touch. If I couldn't control a mouse droid, there's no way they were letting me touch a Porg.
Well, I think one of the most memorable at the Chicago Star Wars Celebration in 2019, one of the coolest costumes I saw besides a two tubes was a rock that looked like Acto and had like 4 or 5 Porg puppets on it, and the lady inside, I believe it was a lady, was reaching up, moving the Porgs at different times.
Really?
So it was like a rock outcropping covered in Porgs, and I thought that was pretty brilliant.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, that's pretty smart.
My little ones, I've got 4 kids, and they all look.
Oh my God, how do you do 4? I have 1, and that's so much.
Spread them out. I've got a 19-year-old, a 14-year-old, a almost 6 next weekend, and then a little guy who's 14 months.
Oh, great. So the 19-year-old can just take care of the other 3.
When she's not at university. Yeah.
Forget the studying.
Yeah. But yeah. So Bastian, do you have any more questions? You've got Pal right here in front of you. Any burning questions?
Yeah, important question for me. How Pal died in Rogue One?
Well, I think so. Yeah, pretty sure he does. We filmed his death scene. I don't think it really made the film. Well, they all die. The whole planet goes. Yeah, it was the way we filmed it was we're sort of in this ditch, and everybody comes up. It's the sort of last ditch. We come up and over this trench, and everybody's running towards the doors, and Pow just gets shot. He just gets sort of plucked. It was one of those things, yeah. But you don't really see it in the film. They don't show that. But then they sort of show it when the whole world blows up. So fingers crossed, he makes an appearance at some point in the Andor series. I have no idea, but hopefully, whatever they're doing with Andor and prequels and stuff like that, hopefully, that would be pretty cool.
That would be amazing. Absolutely, double fingers crossed. I mean, it's got to happen. Come on, everybody loves Pow.
Who knows? I know they're filming it right now. I know they're filming it right now, but I have no idea.
Excellent. Well, do you have any questions for us, Derek?
Oh, yeah. Well, what haven't we covered? Okay. Getting to the 501st here. How long have you guys been in the 501st for?
Bastian, go ahead.
Bastian, are you in the 501st? Or are you in the Rebel?
Yeah.
You must know you're in the 50. Yeah, you're in both. I'm in both too.
I'm in both. Yeah, I'm in the 501st since 2002.
2002.
Wow.
Yeah.
Almost 20 years.
Yeah.
How old are you? You look like you're 23.
I'm 42.
You're 42.
Yeah.
So, what are you drinking? I want some of that.
Yeah.
Just save it up. So how old were you when you joined the 501st, though?
How old I was?
Early 20s.
Yeah, I was.
Wow.
20 years.
And what was your first costume? that you built?
A TIE fighter pilot.
Classic.
But this one is not approval now. I got a new one.
And so how many costumes, because you have a lot, how many costumes do you have in total?
15.
Wow, that's so many. That's cool.
awesome.
And Michael, how long have you been in the 501st?
So I joined in 2016. I was actually at a convention with my kids wearing my Boba Fett, and the head of the UK garrison stopped me. I didn't know who Gary was at the time. And he said, "Hey, you're not in our outfit. Do you want to be?" And I said, "Well, my wife's giving me the look like, come on, the kids are hungry." I said, "You got 5 minutes to talk me through it." And here we are. And I did my first event at the Space Museum.
Yeah.
Warwick Davis was doing a fundraiser there. And one of the BB-8 puppeteers was there. I can't remember because I couldn't see anything. I was in.
Oh, that might have been Brian.
Yeah, and it was fun. So I have just Boba Fett, Empire Strikes Back. I have a shore trooper that's about 80%. Obviously, with all the kids, life gets in the way. And I've got about a 70% done Din Djarin all Beskar from Mandalorian.
Oh, wow. Oh, so that's quite a new one. And then, so Bastian, out of your 15, which other than Pal, obviously, what's your favorite?
My favorite character
that you made.
that I made, it's Pal.
Well, yeah, other than Pal, because we know that.
Shore trooper.
Oh, yeah, because they're comfortable, aren't they?
Yeah, I love it. I got the stormtrooper too, and I love the shore trooper a lot. Yesterday, I was with my girlfriend on a photo shooting, and we took
nice.
pictures. And I really enjoyed to move in the forest with this costume.
So here's a question you guys might not get asked often. So Bastian, I guess for Pow, and Michael maybe for Boba Fett. If you could put Boba Fett or Pow in any other franchise movie, which one would you put him in?
Guardians of the Galaxy.
The Galaxy. They would fit. I was hoping maybe Bond or The Notebook. That would be pretty funny. Just have big Boba Fett just in The Notebook. Just as maybe one of the carers. I don't know.
I think it would be really cool to have an Easter egg of maybe Boba Fett's symbol in the next Indiana Jones. That he uncovers that.
That'd be pretty
That
cool.
would be cool.
Bastian, what did you say? Sorry.
Maybe Fifth Element.
Oh, Fifth Element. That's a good call.
That's great.
He looks like the
Pal could be good.
Yeah. He would also weirdly fit in the Super Mario's movie with Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo. That masterpiece.
Absolutely. So Derek, what professionally, as what's your next professional goal, or to stretch your art, or what you do? What would you like to do next?
Yeah, so the trajectory that I would like to do sort of is maybe potentially work a little bit behind the camera as, say, coordinating or movement direction, or sort of there's a gentleman that we worked with throughout the Star Wars movies called Paul Casey. And Paul Casey was Admiral Raddus. He was Eloasti. He's a creature performer, and he's done loads of different creatures in movies from Blade and all of them. He's Doctor Who. He's done everything. And as well as doing the creatures, some of the creatures, we call them hero characters, the ones that are filmed on a lot, that have maybe dialogue. He was the coordinator. He was the movement guy that would be in our ear, sort of directing us and telling us and stuff like that, and sort of guiding us through, the set and stuff like that, and be the point of contact between Neil Scanlon, who's the head of our department, who runs the creature department, and the director, or the first AD, the first assistant director on set. So ideally, you know, I would sort of like a trajectory in that path to continue to perform, but also take a bit of a back step, and maybe not back step, just sort of be behind the camera, sort of helping guide and direct a bit more. Because one, I think that's uh, quite fulfilling
Mhm.
artistically. Two, I think it's so pivotal and needed. I don't think people fully understand the benefit of having a contact on set who's behind the camera, because oftentimes directors are, and that's, you know, that's not a criticism. They often think, you know, you put on a mask and you just go and run. And it's like, well, there's actually about 5 other steps that that performer needs before you call action, and the information that you give them has to be directed to them. And so many times you get on set and you're wearing a head, and somebody's talking to you and they go, okay, you need to walk that way 4 or 5 steps, and you need to turn this way. And you're going, I can't see you right now. I don't have any idea what this way is or that way. I don't know where I'm standing in this world. So somebody with the knowledge of what they see and how they hear, explaining to them, can really be beneficial on set and cut time down, which is so important on set. It cuts the learning curve when you step a person on set for the first time and they have 5 minutes to look around before they get a head put on them and they call action. To cut down that curve time is so important. So yeah, ideally that's sort of my trajectory. I'd like to sort of do a little bit more of that behind camera if I can.
Well, you know, Derek, I really think that sounds like you're already ready to step into that role, because you know, that's what makes it the art, is all those nuances
Yeah.
that come natural to you after doing it for years, but that, you know, and you make it look easy, but then you have to be able to explain to someone else, no, it's not just wearing a costume and a mask. There's a whole lot of, like you said, physicality and pre-planning.
Yeah,
Um,
massively, and it's the little things like eye lines. It's like, you know, in POW, when you're talking to K2SO, K2SO is 7 foot. Um, you know, so you're hitting what we call blind eye lines. So, you know, standing in front of me, I would know that, you know, Felicity was here, Diego's here, and K2's up here. So you got to go, okay, Felicity's, you know, 5. I know in my head I say 5'7". She's probably not 5'7", but in my head, to hit a 5'7" eye line to make Pal look at her in her eyes, I know that's that. And Diego's my height, which is just straight on, and I know that Alan Tudyk's 7'1". So you have to memorize those physically really fast, so that in your scene, when you have the puppeteer going, so you get 2 earpieces. You get one earpiece with the puppeteer directing you, sort of letting you know what's happening. And you get another earpiece with the actor's dialogue. So you can hear the actor speaking, so you can hit cues. So you know when they're talking to you or when they're talking about you. So you have about 10 people talking in your ear. So you have to be really focused on what cues you're hearing. And oftentimes a puppeteer can't speak because they're recording dialogue, they're filming. So we call them blow cues. So the puppeteer will sit there with the microphone, controlling the face, and go. We call them blow cues. So you hear a blow cue and you go, one blow cue is for Felicity. So Felicity, Diego, that's up to Alan. And so you have to make that look natural by just hearing cues that are being, you know, through a breath while hitting dialogue cues in your other. It's really becomes really technical, which the directors don't know. So when you're sort of doing that stuff and hitting those really technical things and making them natural, so that you don't sort of go, oh, where's Diego? There. You know,
sure.
when the camera's there, your head's moving the size of a bus because you're on a 20-foot movie screen. People forget, like, that move is so big on a movie screen. You don't want to be going, you sort of just want to be like really small and natural and letting the puppeteer manipulate the face. What are you doing to complement the puppeteer? So what am I doing to go, well, I'm just going to move the face a little bit and let Phil Woodfine, who's controlling the face, open the mouth a little bit, snarl the eyebrows, and complement his work so that I'm not taking away from him. So it's like 7 steps before it becomes really technical. Yeah.
Well, Derek, we really appreciate the phenomenal insight that you're giving us into this, and
Oh yeah,
and
because
even
you
more
know
appreciation. So
You're
Thank
very
you
welcome.
for joining us.
Yeah, man.
And Bastian, did you have any final comments?
Oh, yeah, I wish you all the best in this time.
Thank you, man. And Bastian will attest. If you guys speak with Tom Wilton, Bastian's met Tom Wilton, and Bastian knows how bad a person Tom Wilton is. He's horrible. He's just a mean person.
I like him. I like him. You both was a great team.
You don't have to say that, Bastian. He's not here. You know, he's not gonna hurt you anymore, okay? I won't let him hurt you.
It was one of my best conventions I ever met. You guys was amazing.
That was a good convention. Yeah, I think that was the first time me and Tom ever did a convention together. Yeah. Horrible time on my part. Great time on your part, supposedly, but don't worry. We know how you really feel about him, Bastian. It's essentially, we'll end the interview knowing that Bastian hates Tom Wilton. That's how we leave it.
Okay.
Well, Derek, we really appreciate your time. Hopefully I'll see you someday on set.
Yeah.
Appreciate you helping us out with Project 1138 as we're celebrating 50 years of Lucasfilm, and for helping us with the 501st to raise money for the first charity. Final line to you, sir.
I hate Tom Wilton. Easy. I hate him. I'm going to call him right now, and he's probably doing his interview, and I'm going to call him and ruin his interview.
Thanks so much, Derek.
Thank you guys so much. I mean, the 501st and the Rebel Legion, you know, I've been lucky enough to be honored in both of those, and I hold those badges very high. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.